Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Detectives These Days Are Crazy, Season 1, Episode 9. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So starting with the first part of the episode, I love we started Media Res. I think that was like Challenge Mission 5 we started with, but I thought like the reason why Mashiro looked the way she does is because of that. It's like, no, it's actually literally Mission 2 is the reason why she looks like that, but we'll get to that in a second. So we rewind a couple hours and we find out that Mashiro's phone went missing. And I love that whole thing of like, she's like, oh my god, I lost the most important thing. It's like, what was it, your dignity? I think even Cerberus was like, barked and was like, no, or like meowed or whatever, and was like, your common sense. But then Nezu was like, no, I'll call your phone for you. And then when they looked at his phone, he has Maki as his background. And he's like, I got her permission, so it's okay. Which that leads to a whole bunch of questions. Because that's like from last episode when she was in the park. Even I was asking, like, why is he randomly taking her photo? Like I said at the time, I was like, I wonder if it's still the continuation of him being suspicious of you. Because like the whole like stalker thing, like that kind of got brought up during the Girls Night Out episode. But, like, I don't know if that was still connected to that. But him saying, like, I got her permission, I was like, that's BS, right? Because, like, she's running in the park, and then he takes the photo. Not unless she did ask him to do that, and then he got permission. Not unless he got caught, and then she gave him permission afterwards. I don't know, because that feels like BS considering, like, how he wasn't just already there taking the photo. He jumps out of the bushes, takes the photo. So that's why I'm like, I don't know, man. But either way, it turns out the person who took her phone is calling back, and it turns out they're a creepo, and they're like, oh, you're going to have to complete these missions for me. It's like, you're an idiot for having your passcode be 000. So because of that, this phone is mine, and if you want it back, you're going to have to do some challenges. And then she starts like saying all this curse throughout the phone. He's like, no, like you shouldn't be just trying to like hit me with a curse through the phone. And then she's talking about like, oh, I hope with like 1,000 spears stab you in the heart. And it's like, should we really be going this hard in the paint about a phone? And it's like, well, obviously for a girl, it means everything. It's kind of like the message to this. So it's like, right, you got to complete missions. I also love that all while this is happening, she's crushing Nezu's phone. And it's like, man, you're the last. You can never trust anything. Like she doesn't have a deft hand. She always kind of goes full force a lot, as we've seen time and time again. But her first mission was she had to win a sumo wrestling competition. I love a lot of this too. She's constantly jumping in the middle of competitions. I think that wouldn't count, but I love that they just kind of let it slide. But she wins the wrestling mission. The second one was a bee situation. Had to get rid of a beehive, which I'm like, hey, call back to episode 1, except she actually disposes the beehive this time instead of like wiping out a gangster organization. Very befitting too, considering Nezu's also there this time. And I guess you have Nagumo to like, well, I guess there's no confusion here. That is so fascinating that it's just kind of like, well, I guess you could make the argument too that because her phone is on the line, she's a lot more focused and there's no miscommunication like last time. Whatever the case may be, I just think that's interesting. But her face is all like bumped up from all of this. The third one, she had to like swim across like some water. The fourth mission was she had to basically get some bystander to pay for a 100 yen pin for 10,000 yen. And she had to beg and plead for that. The fifth one was the eating competition, and she managed to make her way through that. So, but the assailant is getting frustrated because it's like she shouldn't be making any progress, but she is. So we cut to Yu and Maki talking, where she's like, "Oh, you watching something obscene?" And he shows her, and it's like he's like, "Oh yeah, look at this hippo pooping." And he's like, no, I'm actually looking into this. This is actually a spread case about this pervert who takes girls' phones and he basically forces them to do stuff to get it back. And he basically wears them down, and once they're exhausted, they're a lot more malleable. Because I was like, I guess like the fact is you're getting some sick satisfaction from the games in a very Jigsaw Saw type of way. But I'm like, I was thinking to myself, I'm like, what's the pervertedness to it? But I guess like he comes out of the shadows and takes advantages of the young ladies. But obviously Maki like throwing all these insults towards him, and then partway through it, Yu's like, are you sneaking in insults about me? But even he's like, is it really that crazy, like a girl's phone? And she's like, yes, a girl's phone being seen is like the worst possible thing, second only to like being naked. Or maybe like either saying that's, I think the implication was having your phone seen as number one, being naked as number two. I don't think it was like the other way around, but either way, mission number 6 is she had to get like 100,000 yen by pretending to be a mine. And she, so she was able to complete all the other missions, and the guy's annoyed because he's like, why is she so adamant about this? Like, fine, I should just throw away the phone, because for him, it's like the effort he's putting into this isn't worth it. Which I'm actually curious what the other 4 missions were going to be, but it's also probably he's playing it by ear. Like, he's probably never had to go this far because she's so resilient and tough, and she's making her way through this despite everything. But then we have Fu-chan showing up, striking as Phantom Dave Biba, and stole Mashiro's phone back. But it's like, oh, she's got some muscle to back her up. And I was curious, like, oh, who's it going to be? I'd almost thought for a second, I was like, there's no way that's going to be her dad. Like, I thought, like, maybe, I mean, and this could be a future storyline, but probably not, considering he's on the side of justice. But I was thinking, like, maybe he'd be kind of like an assistant to her or something. Like, he'd be a part of this. But it turns out the person by her side is tasting. Really quickly too, the whole like Mashiro thought this out, was like, well, the person who stole my phone and who's waiting for me to do all these challenges is probably nearby watching. So I had Fu steal the phones of everyone that's suspicious, and it's like, well, don't worry, we'll just kind of sneakily give them back, without any issue. So, not unless that becomes a future issue, but I guess that's not off camera, like, out of off-screenly handled. But I love that Fu-chan is sitting on top of Tasting's shoulder. And it's like, yeah, you've seen so many like animes and stuff like that where like a little girl or character with like a massive like golem or something, and the thief drops oh my god, you look like the Toguro brothers. I was like, you did not just fucking drop a Yu Yu Hakusho reference. I was like, fuck you, that's awesome. But he's like, oh, you're so big, you'll never, chase after me and get me. But obviously, Tasting catches up, which I'm like, it's kind of funny too, considering like Toguro was pretty fast for his size too. But either way, I'm forgetting. Younger brother. The big brother was the younger brother. The smaller brother was the older brother. Either way, I should have probably had that a little fresher in my mind, considering like, it wasn't too long ago I watched a live action adaptation, even though it's been like many years since I saw like the anime. Either way, Tasting, makes him taste his nipples. And it's like, oh, here's this, God, it wasn't poison or whatever like that, but it was something to disorientate him. And then Fu-chan ended up stealing his wallet and knows like, oh, you're a 34-year-old single guy. I'm going to hand these over to my dad, who's a cop. And that's the resolution to the whole thing. He's just, it's like first you taste a little nipple, a lot of nipple, and then find out you're going to get arrested afterwards. But yeah, luckily, Mashiro got her phone back at the end of the day. And apparently, Tasting has to cover his nipples now with like band-aids or whatever, because there was oral bacteria from the guy's mouth. That I was like, I wonder, is that an issue he has to deal with pretty occurringly, considering like, I mean, it's like, well, I guess the question then becomes, how often does he force people to taste his nipples? You'd almost think periodically, considering like the nipple flavors or whatever they are constantly change every time we see them. So I wonder what's his motivation for changing it all the time. Whatever the case may be, let's not get too deep into the lore that is Tasting. But also the whole thing of like, oh man, that having that afro didn't really fit him. It's like, how did that happen? Hard cut to an hour earlier, he wanted to steal Azuha's phone. In fact, he did steal it. He's like, oh, I'm going to get her. And then in the process of it, Azuha's like, oh, there's so much personal information on my phone. Oh, well, I'll just blow it up. And that's where his curly hair comes from. He's a very multitasking pervert, because that means while he was dealing with everything with Mashiro, he was still, I guess he's orchestrating multiple things at a time. He's like I said, multitasking pervert. So, and like traditional fashion, everything's just resolved, and that's just the end of it all. So we'll see if there'll be any return for this guy in the future or not. And now, finally, moving on to the second and final part of the episode. It is Nagumo's birthday, so we have Mashiro, Maki, and Yu all gathered to celebrate his birthday. It's very beautiful, and it's time for him to blow out the candles. And Nagumo is so out of breath, not doing anything, that he can't even summon the strength to blow out the candle. He's like, I think I might need to go lie down. It's like, not only is you're not getting any oxygen, also the candles didn't even blow out with the little effort you put in it either. And so Mashiro does it and causes a problem because she can never do anything. Like I said last episode with Deft Hand, everything is in extremes because Mashiro is just the extreme character that she is. But luckily, Maki always comes prepared. The fact is that she already had a real cake prepared. That was a fake cake because she knew something like that was going to happen, which is very nice. And so they get to celebrate everything. Also, like, Mashiro somehow managing to have like cake on her eye, and then she like sends out her tongue, licks it off her face, eats the cake, and then spits out the candle. I don't know why. I guess immediately anime-wise, it makes me think of like Lickitung from Pokemon. But then I also was like, oh, that felt like some like Scooby-Doo or Shaggy stuff from, well, Scooby-Doo. So, but either way, obviously Nagumo was complimenting the fact is that like, oh, like, how do you get someone like Maki as your assistant? And I thought, well, she gets a little jealous, you know. Mashiro does, because she got jealous previously when they switched as assistants. They switched detectives that they worked with, but it actually leads to the story of how Yu and Maki started working together. And so initially it's like, because his popularity was rising at the time. Also, I love the transitional interstitial like subtitles and stuff like that, and it pissing off Mashiro. She's like, that's super annoying. And so basically a TV producer was like, hey, why don't we basically make it like a big televised thing or whatever? We can pay get like a 5 million yen reward. And the fact is, you kind of hesitated to think about it. And Mashiro's like, why would you hesitate to think about this? She's like, Nagumo would like strip butt naked to do it. Hell, he'd even lick the producer's shoe. And Yu's like, not Mr. Nagumo would never do that. And Nagumo's like, yeah, I would. And it's like, obviously, it has its image of who Nagumo is, but it's like, it's that thing. 5 million yen is 5 million yen. But anyway, going into the story, there's a whole bunch of people gathered, but the thing is, they're all fans of his, and now it's like, well, how do I distinguish between fans and those who legitimately want to be here to be my assistant? Because anyone that's doing this half-heartedly, that's not going to do well for them in the long run, considering like the job as a detective is dangerous, and I don't want people jumping into this half-heartedly just because they're my fans and get hurt. Probably your fans could do a lot of damage, though. Just, you know, a side note aside, like, they would most likely like do some damage if you were ever in a situation where you're in danger. So many of your fans they probably turn into like superpowered people and take care of the problem easily. But, you know, I digress. And so it's like, some of those people might be there legitimately, but how do you differentiate them? So he comes out on stage and he takes off his face to be like, oh, this is what I really look like. And 99.9% of the crowd bounces because he's like, yeah, they were only here for my looks. So we'll have to start the search all over again. But the one person that stayed is Maki. I think it's kind of an interesting little detail because you can tell her hair is longer. I guess that was to help differentiate the past versus present. There's a little bit of the same like mannerisms as we can tell, but I think it's also like she's definitely softened up a little bit in the time frame that they've been working together, and also like she back then was probably a little more like stoic about it, but now she's a lot more comfortable for calling him out on his bullshit. But she's like, yo, I saw through the mask and I knew that's what it was, but also like, I don't care what you look like, as long as I get paid, it doesn't matter. And for him, it's like, okay, that was enough for you, and he hired her on the spot. And it's like, yeah, let's like happily work together. And obviously Maki present day is kind of shot like, oh, like, don't be bringing up the past like that. And it's like, oh, why did Maki want to take the job in the first place? And for her, it's like, I've always wanting to be like more of a behind the scene type of person to like basically help support and prop up those who like to be on the stage. And Yu's takeaway is like, oh, I'm pretty amazing, aren't I? It's like, you must be doing this all for me. And she turns to him, it's like, yeah, the only orders you really give me are dealing with bathroom stuff and sexual harassment. Those are the only orders you give me. And then we move over to Nagamo about like, well, how did he get this office space? Like, where did this all start for him? And I love his flashback involves like him not remembering the faces of the person who introduced him to the building. I guess it's like a realtor or whatever. And then like all the people that sold him the building, like, or let him rent out the space, they're like, faces are all contorted. Their faces are literally such abstract art brought to life. And it's like, oh my God, it's just such a nightmare that you had. And even when he actually gets to the end of his story and he bought the, rented the place out, he can't even remember what his own face looks like anymore. He's like, oh, I've been using my brain a little too much and now I need to go lie down. It's like, Nagamo, we're at the end of the story. You don't have to like, that's pretty pathetic. It's like, all right, let's try to ignore that. Let's move on to like the first case Maki and Yu worked on. And it's basically a hostage situation. And she offers herself up as the hostage. And in that moment, Yu distracts the guy and then attacks him. But Maki's like, you didn't need to do that. The cops would have shown up a couple minutes. Plus, the gun he has is a replica, so I was never in any danger. He's like, yeah, but at the end of the day, you're still my assistant and I didn't want you to get hurt because even if it's a replica, you still could have gotten hurt. And obviously that meant a lot to you. He's like, oh, have you fallen for me type of situation? She's like, I will sue you for sexual harassment. And Mashiro's only takeaway was like, wow, Maki, you're so amazing. Of her, like, I just wish I could do more for Nagamo. And we have her turn over and look, he's already passed out sleep. And I love the whole, it stays on a frame of him snoring and it pauses. And then he does it again, and then she proceeds to yell at him like, yo, like, how can you fall asleep on your own birthday? He's like, oh, could you get me some water? It's like, come on, cut the old man some slack, He's old, he smokes, his body's like ragged as hell, so cut the old man some slack. I'm interested to see where some of that might take us going forward, learning more about Yu and Maki's like time together maybe, but also like that continued thing that Mashiro's probably had since episode 1 of how do I best serve Nagamo? We make a good team, and obviously she's felt insecure about it at times, but what she can do going forward to continue being a great assistant, but also like Nagamo might complain here and there, but for the most part he accepts her, crazed assistant that she is and all. Like he accepts all like the craziness of like what is Mashiro, because it's like that's why they gel together so well. So, but I'm very, very interested to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.